Hello, this is Rodivia with Proposabid coming with what Proposabid does. And today's topic is streaming the bid management, eliminating efficiencies to save time and cut costs with your bid management system. So with that, uh, as we know, there's repairs that need to be done on the properties. May they be HOAs, multifamily, single families, mom and pop. Uh, Things are going to break, right? Roofing, concrete, asphalt, gating system, security cameras. You might have budget season coming up, capital improvements, insurance claims, things like that. And so with that, you got to get your bids in and your estimates in order to make financially relevant and educated decisions on how you're going to move more forward. May it be your property management company, an asset manager, or whoever is, overseeing your properties. And what I'm going to do is pull up this slide right here and see what what your build out might be. So basically, what happens on, let's say, property management companies or HOAs, they have staff, and that staff is, your maintenance, your on-site person that takes the rent. Maybe they're doing rent notices. Maybe they're doing some other things around the property, taking rent, going to court, and they also need to contact vendors, get bids so that the property can be improved. And with that, what we tend to have here is a series of events that your on-site staff has to do, which is do the phone calls, the hurry up and wait, the incoming bids may come in a timely fashion, they may come in piecemeal, they may expire, they may get lost in emails, right? They may come in halfway filled in, and then you have to do comparables on those bids, right? Make sure they're apples for apples. And then if they're not, or if there's things that need to be added or possibly, clarified in the bids or taken away, there's corrections that need to be done. And then you get to the award or the approval and then the award, right, for those bids. And this entire process could take a few weeks if your process is efficient, or it could take a few months to possibly never getting done. Right. And so in that, you could run into issues such as investors needed a build out. Let's say it's an office remodel and they've allocated that funds to the property management company or to the holding company to get that office built out, and the bids were never sourced, or only one bid was sourced and that bid was never acted upon. And now there has been a price increase on that bid because it was 2 years ago, or possibly your vendor no longer wants to work with the particular property because they feel stiffed in the communication, in the explanations, in the intention of the properties. And so, therefore, these properties have a hard time sometimes getting those bids apples for apples in a timely fashion. So, what staff usually has to do is they have the manual communications, right, for initiating the vendor communications through emails and phones, the follow-ups and the tracking, right? And then you have the response times where staff is often wasting time for vendors to submit bids, leading to delays in completing the bid comparisons in the very end. Then there's the sorting and the organizing that needs to be done for the bids, which is managing the incoming bids. It can be chaotic, right? Without a streamlined process to organize and categorize each proposal for easy comparison. That's not even to say that your on-site staff has the knowledge base or the tool set to be able to accurately look at bids apples for apples, or even know what they're asking for up front, if it's roofing, if it's concrete, if it's office remodel, right? And then you also have the manual comparisons, which is basically determining if each bid is comparable based on the RFP that your company has created, right? To source those vendors to be able to get the correct bids that you need for the property repairs. And then there's difficulty tracking once again for those bids. They could be in your email, they could be stuffed away in a drawer, they could be sent to a director somewhere that's no longer with the company. And then you have the dependency on individual follow-ups. So you have different lines of communication that's happening between the vendor and the client, and that communication could get sorted out through chat, through emails, through snail mail, right? Through text messages and phone calls, where everyone is not privy to the same information. So that information, that what I just talked about, is located here on these slides. Didn't want to bore you with all that. So the top nine inefficiencies in bid management process. So then you have implementing a more streamlined or automated workflow could significantly, right, reduce those inefficiencies that we just spoke about, especially in areas like the comparisons, the communications, and the tracking of the bids. So what does that look like, right? If you have a streamlined and automated workflow? Theoretically, you would have the first, five pieces done for you, which would be the phone calls, the emails, the waiting, the incoming bids, the comparables, and the corrections basically done for you so that, your staff or your, directors, your PMs, your property management can sit, or mom and dad can just sit, look at the bids, see the comparables, apples for apples, and just do an approval and award. And that's what Proposabid does. So let's change the slide here. So this is what we do, right? We source three or more competitive, comparable apples to apples bids from vetted contractors and general contractors or specialties. And we are actually able to save clients anywhere between 29 and 64% on each project. And it also depends on the stage of the project that when it was initiated before you contacted Proposabid. So what we take care of is the first five pieces, right? All the incoming phone calls, emails, correspondence. We do the waiting for you. You get to do the other things that you need to do to make sure that the property is running smoothly, that your investors are getting their money's worth, that the on-site that the residents are getting, what's in their lease and their service agreements and all those things. You can focus on all those things without having to focus on this particular piece here, which will make or break your, balance sheet and your budget and, can keep you out of lawsuits and fines and fees. So I have Dolly here who enjoys a hassle-free vendor bid services, and all she has to do is talk with Proposabid and see the bids, apples for apples, approve them. Maybe there's some slight corrections or things she might want or need, or that your staff might want or need, and then just be able to award the vendor for whatever project that was in place. And this particular piece here, uh, we are able to, narrow that down to 15 business days or less versus maybe weeks, months, or maybe even years of getting the bids that you need. So sourcing bids and estimations accurately and efficiently matters. And why does that matter? The reason why it matters is because you need to consolidate the communication, right? You need to have one place that the phone calls, the emails to vendors, the text messages, the automation is being made with the vendors, reducing communication threads, right? And you have one place that all that's being documented. You need a place where you can reduce the waiting time, right? So instead of you waiting for vendors to get back to you and they may not be interested in the bids and you never hear back, or in the request for proposal and they never hear back with bids, we're able to minimize the waiting by speeding up the process with our marketing, our customized requests for proposals, and the conversations and the intentions that we have with the vendors on the client's behalf, so that the clients don't have to wait for responses. And there's a centralized bid collection, right? A database where we're able to organize all the incoming bids by managing those submissions and then looking at those bids apples for apples. And then we have a standardized bid comparison platform where all the bids are looked at apples for apples. There may be some throwaways there that we'll still give to the client so that they know that we're sourcing those bids from viable vendors, but they may not have the right scopes of work in those particular bids that they're submitting, but the client may still be interested in those bids. So they don't have to worry about those inconsistencies in the scope or format, or if they do see that there are inconsistencies, but they're interested in this vendor for whatever reason, we're able to go back to the vendor and request whatever needs that the client may have to see if the vendor can fill out the approved RFPs that the client may want. And then there's the error checking and corrections, which identifies any missing or incorrect information. Once again, it goes with that bid standardization, coordinating with vendors to make any necessary corrections or changes before presenting the bids that we acquire from Proposabid to the client. And then it's a simplified approval process where clients can quickly review and approve the bids without having to navigate the previous complexities of the bid vetting and time saving and the effort that it takes to get those bids acquired. So with that, I have a slide on that, and I did skip a slide, which was there's a streamlined vendor selection. Basically, it ensures that clients only receive bids from bid vetted qualified contractors, reducing the risk of choosing unreliable vendors. Now, we do work with Compliance Depot, and we also have vendors from Nexus or Vive, and we're also able to integrate or take vendors from your preferred database, match those up with other databases for the reliability, the licensing, the credentialing, based on what you currently have, and then submit those bids apples for apples when those bids come in from those qualified vendors. And of course, it saves, the client between, a pretty substantial sum on projects, making it cost efficient so that the properties can get the repairs that they need. You can get your line items in, your budgets are squared away, and you're not wasting valuable time or resources. And it's an end-to-end bid management to where it's end to end in a sense of we don't choose, Proposabid doesn't choose the actual bids on the client's behalf or award the vendor, but every stage up until the bid submissions that we submit to the client is a done for you end to end bid management there. Okay. So we're obsessed with eliminating 5 areas of friction for our clients, which is the multiple stages and the handoffs, the documentation, the time that's wasted, and the coordination and communication that it takes to get these bids, and then the analysis and the comparison and the compliance of the bids and of the vendors themselves. And typically, this is something that your on-site staff would have to do day in and day out. And if you have multiple properties and you may not have the correct staff to be able to vet this process on their own, this is a very viable thing that we've really hammered out and sorted out for our clients to be able to give them the resources, access, and time savings that they need. And the way we do that is what we call micro bidding, and it's a concierge approach. So we do a project deep dive, we create a customized scope of work, RFP. We do the marketing on the client's behalf. When those bids come in, we do the bid analyzation and we give you a decision text. So that way that, Dolly or anyone on your staff can go ahead and select those bids and then award the vendor. So there's 5 businesses that Proposabid is interested in and that we found that we have the best success with from benefiting from the streamlined bid sourcing that we do. And the way that we're able to actually have these 5 businesses have success is that we create the right RFPs with the right vendors at the right time with multiple bids in under 15 business days or less typically. And the five businesses that we have are property investors. So they need affordable quality bids for renovations. They don't have the time or the expertise to be able to source the bids that they need. For instance, Proposabid has worked with folks back east who have an Airbnb or they've got properties in which they're renting out for winter vacation and summer vacations to where they may have a basement that they need to build out because basements are really big back east. And then we had some clients that wanted jet tubs. Um, jet tubs put in on a top balcony so that when the snow falls, they have a jetted system and the people can soak. And so that was kind of a differentiator for them in Upper New York for them to be able to acquire more clients. So we were able to bid that out and give them the information that they need to go ahead and build out not only that top deck, but also build out the unfinished basement so that there was a game room and things like that for the clients in the summertime. And then there's property management companies. And this is what Proposabid was initially built for, was the mom and pop and then the property management companies, because on-site staff has the same responsibilities of kind of like the mom and pop investors. They've got to take rent. They've got to make sure the property is put together. They got to make sure that that the clients are happy. And so their particular need for property management companies is sourcing the correct bids with the right pricing on the right in the right season sometimes, like if it's roofing or something like that. Preferably in the summer and not in the winter, for budget season and capital improvements. And then there's the institutional real estate investors where they have large amounts of properties and require quick, reliable bids for extensive rehabs and construction projects. And then HOA boards and condos associations, which I really have a lot of love for because they have a board of directors, right? So you have 7 or 8 people who have to make decisions for a vast number of the HOA properties that they manage. And their bottom line tends to be what's the best price and what's the cheapest for the best quality. And then you have the need to have multiple bids, not just the three, but they might be looking for four more or three more if they could get it, in order to have high quality bids that they can look at and choose from. And Proposabid has a three or more bid policy where our average is an average of 5 to 7 bids per project. So for HOAs and the boards that need to, streamline their budget and make sure that they're able to get their dollar for dollars met. We really love HOAs in that particular sense, and that's how Proposabid can work with tight budgets and timelines. And then there's affordable housing and nonprofits, right? They need to source cost-effective repairs and renovations to maintain quality housing with constrained budgets. And then they also have a reporting feature that they need to um, have all this documentation of where the money is going and how the bids are being chosen and who's choosing these bids and where are these bids coming from. So affordable housing is definitely a niche that we enjoy helping and getting them squared away on their bids and budgets. And with that, that is what Proposabid does. And thank you. If you have any questions about our bid management, please give me a call at the number here on the screen, or you can email me. You can look me up on LinkedIn and then also on our website at proposabid.com to learn how we can save you time and money on your next project. Until next time, thank you.